Okay, I'm out here at Rainbow Gardens recreational area, and there's the backside of Frenchman, and so I'm going to walk towards Frenchman Mountain. So I'll be walking back in time. I'm standing now on horse spring formation. That's what this stuff is. In other words, these were among the last layers to be laid down, and that stuff over there. So Frenchman is kaibab limestone, and so as I walk along, I'll leave the horse spring formation, and then I'll start hitting Jurassic and Triassic, and it's a walk back in time. So that's the purpose of this hike. This is not my good camera that I'm using. And so just starting out, the first stuff you see, this is horse spring formation, which was washed down into a large basin area of landlocked lakes that would dry up and come and go. That's what Pabco is over there. It's freshwater gypsum, just out of view because it's hidden. That's horse spring formation, that gypsum. And so at times you'd have mud and silt, other times standing lakes, and so that's what this is. This is horse spring formation. This is a tricky area because on the other side of the highway, see, there's a fault on the highway. And so on the other side of the highway, a few hundred feet away, you go back 200 million years and you're into Moenkopi. So this is a tricky area because of the faults, but this is horse spring formation, relatively recent. 20 million years is what I'll use. 6 or 7 million to 20 million. Lava Butte, by the way, erupted right in the middle of the horse spring formation being washed down. It's a fissure eruption, kind of a hoodoo. It's not a laccolith. But it happened right in the middle of the horse spring during the extension, and so the extension opened up cracks and then the lava came up. But that's what it is. It's a fissure eruption. It is not a laccolith. Okay, now walking along, I'm just a few feet off of the road there. This is called Middle Wash Road. But this is where it gets tricky. You see, this is Aztec sandstone. Okay, that's not horse spring, but remember, horse spring formation washed down on top of the Aztec sandstone. The Aztec sandstone was sitting, minding its own business, eroding for tens of millions of years. And then the horse spring was the first thing that washed down on top of it. And so since these layers are turned kind of sideways, you can run into spots where you see Aztec sandstone. So it does get tricky. It does get tricky. Now see that material over there, that gravelly stuff, that is horse spring formation and recent. So it's a very tricky, dangerous area to look at stuff and say that you think you know what it is, because it can get you in trouble. Now, a couple hundred feet further, you go along and you go, oh God, that looks like Moenkopi tidal flats and flood deposits and stuff like that. Okay, now remember, this is tilted like 60 degrees, and so you can run into some strange stuff that seems out of context. So you go, how do I know if it's Moenkopi? Which would have the Carnian gravels mixed in. Remember, Moenkopi is Carnian. Okay, so you come along, this is some advanced stuff for you. So you come along and you see the flood gravels, see the gravel and the pebbles, and you inspect it, and the thing to look for is sandstone, which there is none, because I already inspected it before I started filming. But you see the classic Carnian flood gravels? Carnian flood gravels, it's impossible for it to have sandstone in it. Therefore, this is not horse spring formation. Horse spring formation, the sandstone was already there, and it often has chunks of sandstone and sand mixed in with it. But this is Carnian. See, and if you see even the tiniest speck of sandstone in it, an inclusion or a clast. That rules it out. So this does not. This does not. That makes it Carnian. And so this is dated right in the 230 million year range. But that's what to look for. Look in the gravel. Because all gravel doesn't necessarily mean Carnian. But see, it doesn't have any sandstone. And I mean the tiniest speck would rule it out. But so this is Carnian. And just a few feet over from where I just filmed, you've got the classic Moenkopi, the blues and the greens of standing water, floods and standing water mixed in with tidal mud flats, stuff like that. Remember, Carnian is interlaced. The Carnian flood gravels are interlaced in the Moenkopi and part of it. So this is, and also you learn to recognize. For instance, when hiking along known Moenkopi, you see the same crap, the same colors. This stuff up here, of course, is recent. I don't give a damn about that. A little bit further, see, there's your classic Moenkopi. And so that's, it could be brackish, but those gypsum or calcite layers, it's hard to be sure. Those are different from the ones further over by the boulder. That's freshwater gypsum. This is totally different. This is 200 million years previous. And so you walk along and sure enough you have the same colors, the same layers as when hiking among documented, very clearly defined Moenkopi. You have the same stuff, like right there that's in Pinto Valley, the same stuff. So this is a tricky area. It really is. See, there's some more classic Pinto Valley, which the whole hike is in Moenkopi Carnian. So it's also comparison to other known areas, and then you learn to spot how it looks. You see the blues and the greens of standing water. And now remember, this material washed down. It was sterile and barren after the Permian Triassic extinction. And so that's what it is. It's washed down from highlands that was relatively sterile and barren. Now up on the right side of the road, there's your classic, what people call Moenkopi, but it's Carnian. Moenkopi will soon be called Carnian. But let's see, what was the point that I was going to say? Okay, now when I walked along, I was in Horse Spring. And just to the south there, the Rainbow Gardens conglomerate is the thickest that there is known. It's just there to the south 2 or 3 miles. And so then you ask, if that's true, how come you didn't cross it? Why wouldn't you have crossed a section of the Rainbow Gardens conglomerate? The reason is because it didn't cover, it washed down and flowed out existing valleys and stuff like that. It's not like somebody took 1 million gallons of epoxy and poured it to where it covered everything. No, there are sections where it is not. And there are sections where it is thickest, which would be in the alluvial fan areas where it flowed down from. So it's not like it's everywhere, like counting through layers of a cake. Now further up on the right, you see these papery thin layers of not so much tidal flats, but deposited down into an area that you could think of like Mississippi bog, stuff like that. But there's few or no plants. It was very sterile. Okay, so it was washed down by water and deposited and settle out. And so if it's Moenkopi, shouldn't there be some Carnian flood gravels? There they are. There they are, right where they should be. Okay, now this was not a strong flood here because it's fine sand, therefore no petrified wood. Is fine sand. Not all of the huge Carnian floods were so violent that they laid out trees from hundreds of miles away. But that's what that is. So that dates it. This dates this material at the 230 million year range. It's interlaced flood deposits mixed in with the Carnian with the Moenkopi red beds, soon to be just called Carnian. A little bit further along, you do start running into Aztec sandstone. And what's on top of the Aztec sandstone? Rainbow Gardens conglomerate. That's what that cap is up on there. That's because it washed down onto the existing landscape of the Aztec sandstone that had been eroding for tens of millions of years. But that's what that is. Rainbow Gardens conglomerate. The reason it gets so tricky is, remember, I'm walking on a fault. I'm going to walk over to that Rainbow Gardens conglomerate to show you what it looks like. I'm walking on the rubble of it here, so it's limestone and some sandstone mixed. Remember, this wash down here came from there, and also from the other overthrust. It could have washed a long way, but that's where it came from. That's why the composition of it is what you see there, but mixed in with sandstone, because it flooded down on top of the sandstone with all kinds of stuff mixed in. So let's go over and see what it looks like. Okay, so here you have the world's most perfect example of Rainbow Gardens conglomerate. The first basal layer as the horse spring started up. That's why it's on top of the sandstone. And so it's got sandstone clasts mixed in with it for that reason. But there you go, there's Rainbow Gardens member conglomerate, the first basal layer of the horse spring formation. I should have said, okay, this is 32 million, this is dated at 32 million years. Okay, and it's sitting on top of 180 million year Aztec sandstone. So that's an unconformity. In other words, there's tens of millions of years washed away, or where it sat, did nothing. And so that's a classic unconformity. Just some more classic Moenkopi Carnian red beds that I always used to think that had to look like this to be Moenkopi or Carnian. Okay, so here's the thing. You see the limestone mountains of Frenchman. Okay, it transitions. So you've got older ocean further up, and then where you see it ending, the ocean was going away and becoming less and less. And so then naturally there was a transition. They didn't just snap their fingers and suddenly it switched to something else. No, there was a transition. And so you're seeing it. You're seeing it. These would be tidal flats and stuff of an ocean coming and going, and also getting fresh water flooded down onto it with all this material. Anyway, it's approaching 100 degrees, so I'm going to drink some water and head back. But I wanted to, this is an interesting area. Obviously this is Carnian Moenkopi, and those layers up there came right after these here. These here are Carnian flood deposits. Well, so is that. But my point is, these are the gravel deposits in which you find petrified wood. So without even looking, I could tell you right now, it's geologically impossible for it to contain sandstone, which it does not. I already know it doesn't because I've been here. Okay, and the thicker layers are when mudstone settled out after the main big flood. So this here, these Carnian gravel flood deposits, was the initial flood. And that's where petrified wood is. In other words, this dates it at the 230 million year range. Okay, so let's walk along here, and this will be the end of it. Oh, I want to show you a classic case of underwater crossbedding. That when people see crossbedding, they automatically think sand dunes. I have news. Water does the same thing underwater, and that's what that is. This is the most important video of the most important clip of the whole video. There's underwater crossbedding. That's exactly what that is. And it has gravel in it, which proves what it is. So these Moenkopi Carnian is what happened after the ocean went away and was going away. And of course it would be on the edge, so it'd be floodplains, tidal flats, stuff like that. That's what this is. And so there's Frenchman Mountain, and the ocean was going away, and the lighter areas that you can't see very well because I'm down kind of in the wash. But the lighter areas were the final going away of the ocean. And these same layers that you see in here, they repeat. Pinto Valley is these same layers. They're the same layers. So you can count that's tilted up, so you can count going more and more modern, getting closer to me. There was the ocean. The ocean was going away. It becomes tidal flats and mud plains from the Carnian rain event, and there it is. There it is. So, but I'm gonna have to head back because, see the telltale gravels, and they're always very, very similar. Over hundreds of square miles. That's one of the things that confused them. Remember, this Carnian stuff, they didn't start figuring out until just recently. They knew the layers were there, but they didn't know how come there's these layers all over the world like this. And then they figured out it's the Carnian Pluvial episode, but they still use the term Moenkopi. So it's a mix of both. These gravels are interlaced in the Moenkopi, and they're part of it. Moenkopi is part of Carnian, Carnian is part of Moenkopi. Some areas have red beds of Moenkopi that don't have these gravels. It just depends on where it was. It depends on where it was. I want to add, for those that don't know, where these gravels and the trees, the petrified wood, came from. These gravels were closer. I mean, the trees would have traveled hundreds of miles. You know, like people see the petrified trees and they go, well, a forest was here. No, it wasn't. Those trees came from hundreds of miles away. They came from the ancestral Appalachians as Pangea was beginning to break up, as it was separating where the Appalachians are. That's where this material came from. During the Carnian rain event. In other words, this gravel, or huge flood events during the rain event, okay, but up there, that doesn't mean it stopped raining. It was raining almost continuously for 2 million years. All it means is that those rains and floods didn't have enough energy to carry along the gravel and the wood in it. That's all. But no, this is heavily, you're staring right at the Carnian pluvial episode that gave rise to the dinosaurs. All the water, all the water led to the spread of the conifers and the pine trees and the forests. The forest became lush and life got started back up again, and that's what gave rise to the dinosaurs. At this time, by the way, in this Moenkopi, not at this location, but further over in Arizona, in this same muck, there were the archosaurs that were like crocodile morphs. Okay, but there's no fossils in this location because of where it is. This is all washed down. But at this same time, there were crocodile morphs, which makes sense because they survived in the water. But there wasn't very many fish and stuff in the water, and so they had to learn to run around and chase things down on the muddy flats, which is what they did. At this location, the only fossils you can find would be something like if you found a tooth, and it probably would be an archosaur tooth. That you wouldn't find a skeleton here at this location. And the trees that wash down, the petrified wood at this location would be logs carried from hundreds of miles away. Well, areas further inland where it was flatter, there were forests starting up. That's where the trees came from. The forests were starting up. But then as everything got denuded, the trees got washed down, or the hillsides gave way, and they washed down to this location. Here at this location there was no forest, but there was hundreds of miles away, further inland. Okay, one more. There's the Aztec sandstone I referred to when I first started out. So the Aztec sandstone went on top of the Moenkopi, Carnian, whatever, Moenkopi, Chinle, Carnian. That's what's on top of it. So underneath it identifies this as Moenkopi, Chinle. And so if we know that Rainbow Gardens member of the Horse Spring is the first layer that went down on top of that sandstone, well, then if we follow along that ridge, if you follow along that ridge, not that stuff, that's in the background. You follow along that ridge, and lo and behold, look what we got. There's your Rainbow Gardens conglomerate. This is stuff next to the road. That sandstone I was just harping on is just right over there behind that little thing. But anyway, this would be where the Rainbow Gardens conglomerate is. But it's not all exactly identical like that perfect cement. So let's look at it and see if it could be like it. Sure enough, you look at it and it's the limestone washdown, limestone and sand mixed. So this would be considered like Rainbow Gardens conglomerate, right where it should be. But that's what it is. You see the limestone? So see there, it looks dangerously close like that other good stuff I showed you back in the middle of the video. It's the same stuff. So yeah, that's what it is. That's interesting. I tell you the truth, I hadn't noticed that before.